After a great day of sightseeing around Prince Rupert, British Columbia, I was ready to catch the ferry and head south to Vancouver Island. The 440-kilometer journey would take just over 17 hours, traveling overnight through the Inside Passage of British Columbia. Heading over to the BC Ferries 8 p.m. departure to Port Hardy on the north coast of Vancouver Island. A bit of a hike out to the boat. So it begins. Should be a nice little overnight voyage. All right, I am boarding the ferry here to Port Hardy on the north coast of Vancouver Island. I'm not even sure where we're going here. Quite the hike. All right, heading up to the purser's office to get my keys to my cabin. So deck 4. So you can see these are much more like a cruise ship in terms of amenities, not including any food or anything, but definitely well decked out boats. All right, picking up my key. So pretty much standard hotel style here. Just insert the card, and that's that. There we go. And we're in. Not too bad at all. You can see 2 twin beds, and yeah, they're not that bad. I mean, a little bit of thin mattresses, but not too bad. A lot of outlets, that's a good sign. Television. Small desk area, nothing too exciting. I'm gonna do a thorough disinfection of this place in a few minutes here. Closet, that's a nice touch. Let's go check out the bathroom. Okay. Yeah, this looks pretty clean. Toilet and sink, mirror, and a full shower. That is incredible. Incredible value for 120 bucks to add this on and actually have a place to call home for the night. So really cool. And a thermostat if it gets too cold. But yeah, I'm very impressed. Much cleaner than I thought it would be, to be honest. I thought these would be well worn and maybe more cramped, kind of like a train compartment. But yeah, this is pretty spacious for what it is. Very impressed. Definitely glad to have upgraded to get this cabin for an extra $120. Sounds like a lot of money, but I would be paying that anyway at a hotel. That's how I justified it. I wasn't about to sit upstairs on a chair, you know, your typical airline seat, for 17 and a half hours. So you can see this map shows a lot of the points of interest along the route. So again, we are right over here in Prince Rupert and heading down this red line that you can see right there in the center, down to Bella Bella and then onward to Port Hardy. Washrooms. Looks like a little gift shop over here as well. You're gonna go check out what they have to eat here. All right, so you can see some of the lounge seating here in the cafeteria. Some interesting First Nations art along the walls. Salad, 10 bucks. So we're looking at like typical fast food prices in Canada. I guess this is the movie theater, but it's not in operation due to COVID. They do have it open, ironically. So you can sit in here. You just can't watch a movie. So that's strange. Kind of counterintuitive, I guess. But yeah, this is the kind of makeshift movie theater. So basically a set of 3 HD TVs and they play, I guess, first run movies. So that's pretty cool. Just checking out some of the views of the port there in the distance. As you can see over there, that's the terminal where I came from earlier. It's about 7:35 p.m. right now. So we should be on our way in about 25 minutes. You can feel those engines just roaring now. Crazy. The sun decks are up these staircases here. So I can't wait to see that tomorrow. And my room is literally right next to it. So I could not have lucked out better than this. Very cool. I think the ferry's going to be departing here in a few seconds. It just turned 8 o'clock right now. So that is the set departure. So it's unbelievably empty. There's pretty much nobody on board. I think he said 23 passengers on the entire ferry. We're going to pick up 13 more in Bella Bella. So we are sailing into complete darkness at this point, but otherwise a very quiet evening here with a Cold breeze coming off the water. All right, we are just pulling away from Bella Bella on the central coast of BC. I wanted to wake up a little bit earlier to get some views, but it was still pretty dark out. You can see this heavy blanket of fog over the water. The entire ship is pretty much still sleeping, so. Beautiful views though. So Bella Bella is a small First Nations community. You can't really see the town, that's just the ferry terminal there. The town is actually around this bend over here on the coast. You can see some of the lights there, far off in the distance. Glad I took the ferry out here. Definitely nice to wake up to such beauty. As an individual citizen, it's very hard to access this part of Canada without transportation like this to really bring you up close and personal to the amazing coastline of British Columbia. I was gonna go find some coffee and breakfast at this point. They got some breakfast offerings here. Coffee's pretty reasonable. So it's kind of serve yourself, cafeteria style. The coffee was about $2.75 Canadian, so not too bad. I wasn't really hungry for anything more, and I still have some food left over here, but I'm gonna enjoy the views here, take a shower, get ready for the day ahead. We should be in Port Hardy in about 5 hours.
When the stars glow bright, the summer's old. In the misty bright moonlight I were told. When the storm is raging in your head, when you feel there's nothing more ahead, the hills they seem all green but they hide all the monsters. You kept holding my hand as you reached for water. On the hills by the lake you were chasing your dream, and I gave you a rose that you kept on seeing, kept on seeing.
Head up to deck 6 here. It's another sun deck. Not many people out enjoying the views today, that's for sure. I don't know why. It's beautiful out here. There's just a lack of people on board in general. Pretty incredible. So this is looking west towards the Pacific Ocean, and actually in about, I'm gonna say 1 hour, we're going to be next to the open ocean, so it's going to get really choppy at that point. That's when most people get seasick. The beautiful views of the coast mountains from up here. So this is looking towards the village of Namu, which you can see in the center. Very, very small village. And looking back towards Bella Bella, which is about a good 50 to 100 kilometers behind us at this point. So I'm on deck 7 now, and this is pretty much the very top of the boat. So you can see the massive exhaust pipes on the very top of the boat. No real mountain peaks though, as we're getting really close to the edge of Canada at this point. So that mountain peak right there is the only one that you're gonna find westbound at least, and that's the open ocean, right there.
When the stars glow bright, the summer's old. In the misty bright moonlight I were told. When the storm is raging in your head, when you feel there's nothing more ahead, the hills they seem all green but they hide all the monsters. And you kept holding my hand as you reached for water. The hills by the lake you were chasing your dream, and I gave you a rose that you kept unseen, kept unseen. For so long, I kept going on.
So you can see we're coming up on the open ocean over there. Some low-lying cloud, but overall, pretty decent weather. We're going to leave mainland Canada behind here in just a few minutes as we travel a little bit southwest towards Vancouver Island. So not too far away at this point. Still have 4 hours of sailing before we arrive in Port Hardy, but I'm definitely enjoying the mild temperatures and beautiful views out here today. No animals spotted yet, though. There's no whales or anything else. Unfortunately, I wish I could see something, but so far nothing. So much different vibe out here now without the land on both sides. So you can see the open ocean right there. There's nothing in the way all the way to China, so. And there is the Canadian coastline right there. Go over here and you can see our first views of Vancouver Island coming up on the horizon. So Vancouver Island is about 600 kilometers in length, and I'm going to be starting at the very top at Port Hardy and making my way south all the way to Victoria, British Columbia, which is, I believe, one of the most southern cities in Canada. So we should arrive in Port Hardy in about 2 hours. Once I arrive, I'm going to get a taxi to take me down to the Glen Lyon Suites, where I'm going to be staying in Port Hardy to explore that city. All right, the cafe is open again, so I'm going to go and get a coffee here. This kind of throws you off because it looks closed, but it's not. Success. So it looks like there's some signs of civilization popping up now. You can see there is a set of houses there with red roofs on the shore of this small little island. And again, this is a very remote part of Canada, so I'm not sure what this is. It could be a lighthouse. That's exactly what it is. So a little lighthouse on the island. Looks like it's still in operation. All right, we are coming up here on the coast of Vancouver Island. So we're passing by an area here called God's Pocket Provincial Park, which is all of these offshore islands. Beautiful place. We got about 40 minutes or so of sailing left until we arrive in the city of Port Hardy. And there it is, folks. Port Hardy, British Columbia. We're just pulling into port now. We should arrive in about 20 minutes. You can see it's a substantial town. The largest town here on the north tip of Vancouver Island. This is my first time on the North Shore. I've been to the south many times in the past, but never been up here to the north side of Vancouver Island, so this is all brand new to me. And it is that sad time where I have to vacate this beautiful room, so it is what it is, I guess. Have enough time to finish my coffee and take in some of the views here. Beautiful day on Vancouver Island. All right, there is Port Hardy, BC. Going to be disembarking here in about 5 minutes. Just walk into the exit now. It's like nobody on board anymore. I think most of them left already. All right, welcome to Vancouver Island. You can just see how big this thing is. Kind of just lifts the front of the boat right off. That is incredible. All right, taxi is pulling up and I'm on my way to Port Hardy. So this is going to be quite extortionate. The taxi to town is about 30 Canadian dollars for a 10-minute trip, so pretty incredibly expensive. All right, heading to Port Hardy. cab ride was not as bad as I thought it would be, but I'm here at the Glen Lion Inn where I'm staying here in Port Hardy. This was a pretty penny. It was about 140 Canadian per night. The room is okay. Some of the furniture could use some updating, but it is very comfortable. This reminds me a lot of a Holiday Inn or something. There is a Keurig machine, which is a nice touch, and a private little balcony that overlooks the beautiful ocean. Right on the harbor here in Port Hardy. Building looks a little bit worse for wear, but the views make up for it. So definitely a tranquil setting here, right on the waterfront. Just about 15 minutes walk south of the town center of Port Hardy. Nice that it has a little balcony, has some seating out here too. So definitely we'll be using that and the Keurig machine, but absolutely relaxing. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the property. Again, an amazing view over the harbor here in Port Hardy. And I'm looking forward to go explore the town a little bit before it gets dark. So without further ado, let's go check it out.